Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to the Bryant Report. I'm Mike, your host. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about Buford Pusser and, in particular, the events surrounding the ambush in August of '67, which he got shot and his wife got murdered. And I'm sure most of you that have been keeping tabs with this know that there was a press conference held, I believe, August 29th, where the Attorney General and the TBI had a press conference, and they announced that they had been looking into the case because apparently, the murder of Pauline Pusser, which was Buford Pusser's wife, had never been solved. It was an open case. Uh, Buford uh, Pusser himself, the sheriff of McNairy County back then in Tennessee, he survived the ambush. He did get shot to the jaw, and later on in 1974, he died in a automobile accident. And so, since that time, like I say, the case was always unsolved. So it was an open investigation. And so, but it really didn't seem like it was going anywhere for, quite a few years, decades. And then there was a little bit of a movement that started, I guess, early 2000s, maybe a little bit before that, with the coming around of the internet and social media. And, back in the day, you used to have message boards, and then you had Yahoo groups, and then ultimately that evolved into Facebook pages and groups, and of course, YouTube channels. And there were some books that were written about the subject, and a lot of it was kind of geared towards an alternative theory, and that theory was that Sheriff Buford Pusser himself was the one that killed Pauline Pusser, and that basically it was a staged ambush, and it was a setup by him. And so those Facebook pages and groups, and then, like I say, there was one book in particular written by the author by the name of Mike Elam, Buford Pusser, the other story. And he kind of was, at least in my view, the driving force. Or he basically, I guess there was people that were making different claims about what happened all throughout the years, but he kind of was the clearinghouse, if you will, for bringing all that stuff into one repository. And then, of course, he wrote a book and put a lot of that stuff in there. I myself bought the book and read it, and I'm definitely going to give my thoughts and review on that in the coming videos that we're going to do. But like I say, getting back to this Mike Elam gentleman, he was out there basically forwarding some tips to the TBI over the years, and I don't know. I'm not sure if they credit him with getting the investigation officially started, but I think a lot of folks probably, unofficially give him credit for it. And I guess there was a rifle that was discovered by Mr. Elam, and they contacted the TBI, and that was turned over to them for testing. That was in 2023, I believe, and then in 2024, Pauline Pusser's body was exhumed, and an autopsy was performed because it was not performed. One was not performed back in 1967 when the murder happened, and then that led to the press conference that we had. Ooh, just lost some lighting over here. You just never know what you're going to get, folks. But anyway, back to what I was saying. There was this press conference, August 29th, 2025, this past summer, where they made the announcement and they revealed some things, not a whole lot of detail, but they kind of gave a general synopsis that, in their view, they felt like it was more than likely that, not necessarily beyond a reasonable doubt, but more than likely that Sheriff Pusser was the one that killed his wife. And they said that they were gonna put together this. They were gonna release the report that they did, which initially I think they said it was going to be a little over 1,000 pages, but I think now we know that it's up to like 2,500 pages, and it would be made available at the University of Tennessee Martin campus, and you could, I guess, either go in person and schedule an appointment to view the documents. I think in like 4 hour blocks or whatever it is, or you could pay $400 and get your own personal copy of the report. But they also, at some point, are trying to make it to where they're going to have a website set up and everybody can view the documents online. I don't know if there's going to be a fee attached to that. But anyway, it was last Friday, I believe, is when they actually made the report available to where people could come and view it. And there was a reporter from WBBJ, I believe it is, out of Jackson, Tennessee, that went and actually got to view the documents. And that reporter took some screenshots or some pictures of the documents. And, it's like I said, it's 2,500 pages. So there's no way you're going to get everything in a 4 hour block, but they were able to pull some interesting tidbits out of there. And there's some things that, at least that I had not seen. Maybe some other folks have seen it, but I hadn't been uh, privy to any of it. There was some more photos that were released. There's a little bit more details on the autopsy report. Some more details on the ballistics. We got to hear some testimony, from some folks that we had not heard from before. And so I went ahead and so that's what I was going to do on this video, was just kind of pull together some little tidbits that I got out of it and share that with you. And we could open it up for discussion. Uh, so let's go ahead and let me see if I can set this up to where I can share. Just bear with me, folks. Still learning my way around here with this new software. And okay. So, all right. So, this first little thing, let me see if I can make this bigger. This was part of the news article. And let me see here. Get rid of that. All right. So, this was in the write up in the news article. And this is in regards to a gentleman by the name Donald G. Smith. And apparently, Donald Smith was one of the ambulance workers. I don't know if he was the driver or if he was just kind of in the back or whatnot. But he apparently they were able to interview him and get a statement from him. And so this is what he had to say, or at least what he relayed. So Donald G. Smith stated that on the morning of August 12th, 1967, he was working on the ambulance that picked up Sheriff Buford Hayes Pusser. Smith provided that he couldn't understand much of what Sheriff Buford Pusser said. According to Smith, Buford's injuries were severe and it was difficult to distinguish what he was trying to say. Smith's statement to TBI agents continues by saying, Smith described meeting Sheriff Pusser on top of the hill on Highway 45 going south on Guys Road, and that Pusser was driving the car, and victim Pauline Mullins Pusser was lying over in Pusser's lap. And then we go to the next slide here. We'll zoom that out. Okay. Smith explained that the ambulance stopped and they told Sheriff Pusser to sit still and turn around. Smith said his boss started to turn the ambulance around, and that's when Sheriff Pusser took off. Smith remarked that the Tennessee Highway Patrol and Selmer Police Chief Hugh Kirkpatrick arrived, and Smith guessed they had heard uh, Pusser's daddy, which would be Carl Pusser, who I believe was working in the jail, had heard Sheriff Pusser's daddy on the radio from the jail because Sheriff Pusser daddy had called for an ambulance. Smith reported that the trooper and Chief Kirkpatrick got Pusser stopped at the front of the hill. Smith articulated that he went to the driver's door and that Chief Kirkpatrick got Sheriff Pusser's pistol and told Sheriff Pusser, that he, Kirkpatrick, would take care of the pistol and get it cleaned up for Pusser. Smith told TBI agents that he did not remember seeing a shotgun in Pusser's vehicle, but admitted he was not looking for one either. And so we'll move on. This is the actual. This was the actual document in the report, and so we can see here, and that's this basically where we left off there. Smith stated that he did not see a shotgun in Sheriff Pusser's car, but he wasn't really looking, and that Sheriff Pusser would not let him, Smith, get him out of the car. So Smith went to the passenger side and got the victim, Pauline Mullins Pusser, out first. Smith commented that he got Pauline out of the car and put her in the ambulance and then helped get Pusser out of the car and put him in the ambulance. Smith explained that when the ambulance arrived at the hospital, Pusser got up off the stretcher and walked inside the emergency room. Let's see what we got here. Smith revealed that another ambulance employee took Pusser to the hospital in Memphis and that he took Sheriff Pusser to the local. Now, see, I don't know. That's kind of confusing right there. Smith revealed that another ambulance employee took Sheriff Pusser to the hospital in Memphis. Oh, okay. So yeah, that actually checks out because I guess originally Sheriff Pusser went to the local hospital, but then was ultimately transferred to a hospital in Memphis. So that's basically what they're talking about there. According to Smith, Sheriff Pusser told him that was his wife and that he had some of her brain matter on his hands, and that's what Smith remembered Pusser saying when he could finally understand him. Smith informed that he didn't remember Sheriff Pusser making a phone call at the hospital and that nobody could have understood him if he had made a phone call. Now that's interesting because there had been a story that supposedly Sheriff Pusser, while he was at the hospital, had contacted one of his deputies to go and retrieve a firearm out of the shot up police car that was being held as evidence at the Chevy dealership. And so that kind of refutes that, or doesn't necessarily it doesn't necessarily refute it, but it would make it a lot more improbable. Smith described the look in Pusser's eyes as a look he did not know how to describe and didn't know if it was fear, worry, and that Pusser was worried to death about his wife. Smith acknowledged hearing rumors back then and that the gossip was divided by some saying that Pusser and Pauline shot each other and some saying it was the state line bunch. Smith continued saying that he heard Pusser killed some of them and somebody else killed part of them and they were all killed but one or something to that effect. Attached to this investigative report is a copy of the telephone conversation with Donald G. Smith. And so that was, I guess, so they interviewed him over the phone. And so basically just talking about some of the gossip from folks in that area around that time. Some people, I guess, were saying that they felt like it was a shootout between Sheriff Pusser and his wife, Pauline. And then some people were saying that it was the state line bunch. And let's see, we'll continue on here. And let's see, we'll go to the top. I don't know if you guys can read that. Smith described that Buford Pusser was carrying a 357 Magnum, and that some people ran to the passenger side of Pusser's car and they looked inside and they got sick and were on the side of the road losing their breakfast. Smith described that Pauline's head was on Buford Hayes' lap and that part of her head was missing and brains were splattered all over everything inside the car. Buford had some on his hand, trying to tell Smith what it was. Smith stated that he got Pauline out of the car and that Joe White got Buford out of the car. Smith explained that as soon as they got to the hospital, got the stretcher out of the back of the ambulance, Buford got up off the stretcher and walked inside. Smith reported that he was in the back of the ambulance with Buford and Pauline on the ride to the hospital. Smith mentioned that he was sure that Buford was trying to tell him something. Smith stated that he didn't want to say that the look in Buford's eyes was fear because Buford didn't fear anything. Smith commented that Buford was a big man and Smith considered him to be a good friend. Smith expressed that he went inside the hospital when Dr. Peeler was treating Buford for part of the time and that he did not put any bandages on Buford Hayes. Pusser Smith did say that bandages were put on Buford at the hospital and it looked like Buford's chin from his tongue down was shot loose and hanging down on his chest. However, Smith stated that it could have been clotted blood he saw and that it looked like the whole thing had stopped bleeding, so he didn't want to mess with it and get it started bleeding again. He rolled Buford into the hospital on a stretcher. Smith remarked that they rolled Pauline straight to the back hall and it was obvious that she was dead. Smith stated that he didn't remember when the rumor started, but it was going around that Buford and Pauline shot each other. Smith stated that he didn't know why they would shoot each other. Smith described that he did hear that Buford and Pauline's relationship was rocky, but he also heard that it was good. So he heard both sides. Smith remarked that Buford and Pauline worked together, so it could not have been too bad. He probably would not have had her. Uh, so, so that's the story from the ambulance worker. So we did get some clarification on some things. I know that some people had speculated or had been suggesting that Buford's wounds were just superficial and it wasn't that big a deal. But if you're listening to this guy, and I would kind of tend to believe him. I mean, he was in the ambulance. He spent a lot of time there with them while they were injured, and sound pretty serious to me. Um, so that's kind of the takeaway in my book. So the next little thing that I was going to touch on. Let's see if I can find the. Let's see here. Okay, so then we got this other uh, bit of testimony, and let's see if I can bring it up. All right, now this. Let's see if we can make this big enough. All right, so this was, I guess, an interview between with a couple of females, one by the name of Tammy Johnson and the other by the name of Teresa Smith. And let's see, Tammy Johnson was the daughter of Barbara Bivens, and Teresa Smith was the niece of Shirley Smith. And so basically, what we've got here is they're, I guess, giving testimony about a, uh, I guess, some information that Barbara Bivens and Shirley Smith, they had allegedly overheard I guess, an argument between Buford Pusser and his wife Pauline, and I guess this took place at the Old Hickory Bar, the Old Hickory Grill in Guys, Tennessee. So Basically this conversation took place on May 1st, 2024, and they met up with Tammy and Teresa at 12 p.m. at the Starbucks located in Corinth, Mississippi. And the reason for this meeting was due to information that Tammy Johnson's mother, Barbara Bivens, and Teresa Smith's aunt, Shirley Smith, overheard an argument between Buford and Pauline. Uh, Agents note Barbara Bivens and Shirley Smith are both deceased. So, well, this is what we're going with. This is what we got to deal with. When both of these individuals are not here to share their story, so now we're hearing from Tammy and Teresa what their relatives had heard. All right, so the significant information from this meeting is that both Tammy Johnson and Teresa Smith stated that Barbara Bivens and Shirley Smith overheard an argument between Buford and Pauline in the parking lot of the Old Hickory Grill in Guys, Tennessee, in the early morning hours on the same date that Pauline was killed. Tammy and Teresa echoed the same remarks by stating that Barbara and Shirley were in an area of the Old Hickory Grill's parking lot where they could not be seen by Buford and Pauline, but they could see and hear everything that was going on. According to Tammy Johnson, Barbara Bivens and Shirley Smith were sitting in a vehicle smoking, and Buford never saw them. Tammy Johnson elaborated that her mother and aunt told her that the argument was because Pauline was fed up with Buford's affair with a black woman by the name of Pearl Wade. Teresa Smith stated that her aunt Shirley Smith told her that a car pulled up and that Pauline was screaming at Buford that she was going to ruin him. Tammy Johnson and Teresa Smith both provided that Bivens and Smith heard Pauline Mullins Pusser tell Buford Pusser that she was going to tell things she knew about him and about Buford taking money from businesses. All right, so now this is kind of what. Now, when I saw this, I immediately, harkened back because this is a story that I've heard told on Mike Elam's YouTube channel. I believe he's got at least one video out there about it. And when I read his book, I remember reading that. And so let me pull this down real quick, and I'm going to bring up that I got that page if I can find it. Okay, here we go. Let's bring it back up. All right, now this is page 70 from Mike Elam's book, Buford Pusser, The Other Story, which I have right there, Buford Pusser, The Other Story by Mike Elam. And this is page 70. And this is in a chapter that's kind of dedicated to different the different business owners down there in the state line area talking about how they were paying Buford Pusser bribes, basically. And so you see here, it starts off Junior and Shirley Smith, the Old Hickory Grill in Guys, Tennessee. Now remember, Shirley Smith is the aunt of Teresa Smith that was in that testimony we heard earlier. And of course, Shirley Smith owned the Old Hickory Grill with her husband, Junior. It was on Guys Road off Highway 45, a ways north of the state line, operated by Junior and Shirley Smith. This club had the reputation as a hangout for bikers as well as many locals. Like most clubs of the time, the interior of the building was rather small with low ceilings. Outdoors on the back side of the building itself was an open air venue with picnic tables and such. Buford spent a lot of time with Old Hickory as he and the Smiths were friends. Buford is said to have preferred the outside venue of the club when weather permitted. It's also well rumored that Buford was a silent partner in the club with Junior and Shirley. It was one evening outside the club that Barbara Bivens and Shirley Smith overheard an angry Pauline Pusser confront Buford about seeing Pearl Wade. Pearl was a beautiful light skinned black girl that had drawn the interest of both Buford and allegedly Towhead White. It should be noted that Pearl was the niece of Willie Wade, who ran Willie B's, the black club that operated near the Old Hickory Grill. With Towhead serving time at a federal minimum security prison in Alabama, Buford had Pearl all to himself. Now, we, so this connects. This is the connection between, um, Mike Elam and actually, this is the connection between what we saw earlier that was in the TBI report. We saw it reported here in Mike Elam's book, Buford Pusser, The Other Story. Now, the question is, uh, and I don't know, and maybe we'll get the answers to this, and it's a question that I'd like answered. Did Barbara Bivens, did she go to the TBI or the Tennessee Highway Patrol, the McNary sheriff after Buford left? Did she go to any law enforcement agency and relay this story? And did Shirley Smith relay this story to anybody? That's a question. As an investigator, if I was assigned to this case, I'd want to know, uh, did did these two women, did they go and make this report to anybody? Back in the 70s or the 60s. Now I know some people might say, well, Buford, he was the sheriff, and maybe they might have been scared of Buford, and that's okay. Perhaps that's a fair thing to say. But remember, Buford stopped being sheriff. I believe in 70 or 71. Definitely by 71, he was no longer sheriff. And the guy that replaced him, from the way I understood it, was no Sheriff Buford Pusser fan. And so, if that should have been, they should have been free, definitely, to go share what they heard, because it was an open investigation. It's been an open investigation this whole time. So that's my, because the problem with when you're dealing with one of these cases that's 60 years old, and you've got a shortage of witnesses and physical evidence and things of that nature, and you're having to sort through all these statements nowadays. And it's not that you're necessarily calling anybody a liar or anything like that, but I think it's fair to gauge the credibility of people. And one way I would look at it is, well, did they tell this story to anybody else? And Buford passed away in 1974. So if you had fear of Buford, certainly by after he passed away, you should have been very free to go give this information. And then, I know Barbara Bivens had actually written a book, um, which I've been trying to get a hold of, but apparently I don't know, I think you have to go through the family or something to get a copy. Um, I don't know, maybe I can get a hold of one. But that's where I would start. I would want to know, and I don't know if it's going to be in the TBI report. I hope it is, but I would want to know, did they talk back then? A lot of these folks are coming out of the woodwork now, and which is fine, which is great. But I want to know who was there at the time, and who spoke up. Then, if and another thing that I would be concerned with is, if let's say that Barbara and Shirley did not go back then. Uh, since this book, Mike Elam's book, came out in 2020, and this interview took place just recently, certainly after he published the book. I mean, I would worry about some cross contamination there. Where did they? I mean, I know they're saying in their statement that they heard it from their aunt, but um, I don't know. I would probably delve into what kind of relationship they have with Mike Elam. And again, it's not that I'm trying to accuse anybody of anything, but I think I think it's fair to again try to gauge credibility when there's such a lack of physical evidence, and all we got to go on is these second, third, fourth hand statements 60 years down the road. I think it's fair to ask these questions. That's just my own personal opinion. So I just felt like that was interesting. And the other interesting thing about it, let me pull this down and we'll go back. I'm going to go bring up that their statement again. And let's see, here we go. And if you notice, it says that this would have took place in the early morning hours on the same date that Pauline was killed. Well, that's interesting too. And I don't know. I mean, because again, we're just getting little snippets here from the report. But anybody that has access to it, and maybe someday I'll get access to it too. But I would want to find out. I would, if I was the investigator that was listening to this, I'd want to drill down on, because when you say early morning hours, what are we talking about? 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 1 a.m., 4 a.m. I mean, that plays a big part into this, because remember, the ambush. I I think the TBI's claiming that it took place around 5 o'clock in the morning, and so I don't know. I think that would be a fair question to ask. But yeah, that's a couple little interesting tidbits that we got out of it, and I'll go ahead and take that off the screen. And then there was something else I wanted to talk about, and there was one more little statement and I'm not sure what to make of it, because it seemed to be a little bit all over the place. But let me see if I can bring this up. Now, this is an audio interview of a guy by the name of Denny O'Howe that was conducted December 28th, 2023. And there's an agent's note, and it says, during the course of the investigation, let me see if I can make that bigger. Let's see. All right, yeah. During the course of the investigation, TBI agents received information from retired TBI Special Agent Terrell McLean concerning an individual he identified as Denny Howe, who used to drive a wrecker in McNairy County during the time Buford Pusser was alive. According to McLean, Denny Howe told him that Selmer Police Chief Hugh Kirkpatrick once told him that when Kirkpatrick, got Pusser stopped on the morning of August 12th, 1967, Pusser looked at Kirkpatrick and said, "I did it." And Kirkpatrick told Pusser to keep his damn mouth shut. The following is a brief synopsis of an audio recorded interview with Denny O'Howe conducted December 28, 2023. The synopsis is not verbatim. This agent reviewed the audio recording to produce the summary. So, and then there's just notes here. Uh, let's see. Denny O'Howe stated he had known Terrell McLean, the TBI agent, for many years. Howe provided that Hugh Kirkpatrick never told him personally that he was on duty the morning the shooting happened, and when he heard the call, he took off to Guys, Tennessee, and met Buford Pusser at Alan McCoy's store just south of Eastview on Highway 45, where they met the ambulance. Hal elaborated that Pusser supposedly told Kirkpatrick that Pusser had done it. Hal explained that Kirkpatrick told Pusser to shut his damn mouth and let's get in that ambulance and hush. Howe claimed that he heard it from somebody else. He did not name who that Kirkpatrick was supposed to have told. Now, this is what I'm talking about. This is the kind of stuff that I don't even know. I don't even know how to even take. So I personally, as an investigator, I would not give any credibility to this at all. Uh, First of all, this guy is giving testimony about something that supposedly took place between this Hugh Kirkpatrick, who was I believe he was the, yeah, he was the Selmer police chief, Hugh Kirkpatrick. So this took place between the Selmer police chief and Buford Pusser, sheriff of McNairy County, the morning of the ambush, and he didn't even hear it. And this Denny O'Howe guy, he didn't even hear it from uh, the police chief. He heard it from somebody else that heard it. So I mean, this right here is just absolutely mind blowing that we would that any of us should take this seriously at all. Uh, so I mean, I'm not even sure what to even make out of it. I mean, if you can't even produce the guy that heard it, I mean, I know that you're probably not going to be able to get this Kirkpatrick fellow. I'm sure he's probably passed away, but I mean, this is the problem. But I see what they're doing. You know, with a lot of this stuff, they're trying to establish motive. They're trying, and this right here is kind of a veiled, low, backhanded way of trying to work in a confession by Buford. But I mean, this is, and that's why I did another video, and I'm gonna re-release that video after this one, uh, talking about innocent until proven guilty, and being able to confront your accusers, have a fair trial, all that stuff is guaranteed in the Constitution. And here we are trying to relitigate, or not even relitigate, it's never got litigated, but you're trying to convict a dead man. And, personally, when I think about a cold case that's 60 years old, in my view, the only way cases like that are going to get solved is through DNA or some sort of confession. I mean, that's the only way you're going to solve it. And in this instance, we don't have DNA. We don't even have a murder weapon. Definitely don't have a confession. And now you're bringing in testimony from people that, like I said, they didn't even, a lot of this, they weren't there. In two instances, the statement from Denny O'Howe and the statement from Tammy Johnson and Teresa Smith, all three of those people are testifying about stuff that they themselves were not even involved in. I mean, that would be like me trying to give testimony about some conversation that happened between, you know, Richard Nixon and Henry Kissinger. You know what I'm saying? It's bizarre. It's just bizarre. Um, so I don't know. But yeah, I think that's all I'm going to cover with this video because we're already almost at 40 minutes, and I really only wanted to try to go 20 minutes, so I'm twice as long as I wanted to be. Um, but yeah, let me go ahead and pull this down. So yeah, folks, this is the kind of stuff we're getting, and I'm hoping that, and I'm probably gonna do some more videos on this as more and more stuff comes out. I'm gonna try to put together some more analysis on this, but it's I'm hoping at some point as we get further into this 2,500 page report, I'm hoping that there's more concrete, solid stuff coming out. I have to say, I'm not really impressed so far with what I'm seeing. Uh, it's and I mentioned it in another video. Like I said, I'm going to re-release it I did take my channel down for a brief period of time and pulled everything down. So I'm going to resubmit some videos in case some of you guys were wondering about that. But yeah, you got this Mark Davidson guy, and he's the district or the attorney general up there in the 25th district in Tennessee. And, he's making this statement about, probable cause and, hey, if he were alive today, we'd seek an indictment. But man, if he was going to send a prosecutor in a courtroom into a court with this kind of testimony, this kind of evidence, I wouldn't hold. If I was him, I would. I certainly. You might get the indictment, but I certainly wouldn't hold my breath, uh, thinking you're going to get waiting on a guilty verdict. But that's all I'm going to talk about today, folks. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Like I said, I'm going to start putting out more series of videos on this. Try to get back in the swing of it. But let me know. It's your turn. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about it. Do you think that testimony from somebody that wasn't the one that heard it? You think that should be in a report like this? I mean, it's one thing to put it in a true crime novel, but to put this in an official TBI report, I mean, I hope this isn't indicative of the kind of stuff that the TBI does on the regular. But yeah, but let me know in the comments what you guys think. And I guess I will see you guys uh, on the next video. I hope you guys are doing well, and I hope your week's going well. And like I said, I will see you guys on the next video. Take care, everybody.